potent advice, and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to The Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I am Jaime Masters, and I finally have on the show today Pete Vargas III, who has no middle name. Funny, I just found that out. You can find him at advanceyourreach.com, and he is really amazing at helping people in business be on the stage and actually be good at it and sell more. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I feel like I have known you for a long time, and we have so many common friends, and we're finally connecting.
I know. I really do feel like I already know you, especially now that I know that you have no middle name. We're actually connected. But Pat Flynn was the one that was like, oh, Pete Vargas, blah, blah, blah. And your name was dropped everywhere. And I thought I knew all the people, but I didn't know you yet. So tell me a little bit about how you came into being. So that way I'm not into actual being, but you know what I mean.
Okay. Yes, let's go there. Well, mom and dad. No, I'm just joking. Pat. I love Pat. So I hope the blah 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 was good. Blah blah blah.
Amazing.
So amazing, good. No, I grew up in Texas, and I went to school in Texas, and thought I was going to go into the corporate world, and decided not to. I was a youth pastor in Texas. I went, and my pastor said, I know you have no Bible training, no theology training, but I know that you'll come in here and love on kids and be an influence to kids. So I went back to my hometown and went and took over. And the number one thing that I did, I showed up the first Wednesday night ready to give my talk, scared to death, which so many of your listeners, not all of them, but a lot of them are like, I'm scared to speak. Well, I've been there. I was scared to speak, was going to give my first talk, thought there was going to be 30 kids there. And there were 3 kids there, Jory, Stacy, and Mackenzie. And I told the 3 girls, I said, we're going to grow this youth group, and we're going to build this youth group. And the number one way that we're going to do it is we're going to bring in speakers who are going to have an influence on kids. Because I grew up in a really rough situation, like a lot of people, just an abusive situation with my dad. And there were several speakers in my childhood times that really made an influence on me. And I thought to myself, if I could bring in speakers to this youth group, they could influence my kids. And that's exactly what happened, Jaime. We went from 3 kids in a small little town to 750 kids in less than 4 years, bringing in several dozen speakers. I'd bring in home stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads. I'd bring in financial advisors. I'd bring in Harlem Globetrotters, Super Bowl MVPs. I'd bring in entrepreneurs, health and wellness experts, because I wanted my kids to holistically grow, completely grow. And that's exactly what we did. I would see the power of 1 hour on a stage, and our youth group grew. And to kind of get to the, what happened for me, what was the turning point for me was one of the speakers I brought in, his daughter was the first girl killed at Columbine back in 1999. His name was Daryl Scott. His daughter was Rachel Joy Scott. And one of my mentors is you got to bring him in. And so he was about the 20th or 25th speaker that I brought in. I was thinking he's going to impact my kids just like all of the other speakers have. And he spoke in Hereford High School during the day. And his final challenge, because of speaking from a place of losing his daughter, he said, there's 5 people in your life that you love so much, and you need to go tell them how much you love them tonight, because you don't know if they're going to be here tomorrow with you. I never knew on April 20th, 1999 that I wouldn't see my daughter that day. And he said, some of them you're not in good standings with. And I hated my dad, and I really didn't like my mom. And because of the abusive relationship growing up, especially with my dad. Well, my dad was in my hometown, and my mom lived a long ways away. So I went and begged and pleaded with my dad to come back to the parent event that night. And there was a parent event. He's like, bring your parents back tonight. Bring those people that you want to tell back tonight. I brought my dad back that night. And what happened is a lot like our entrepreneurial journey is I brought him back, and I was sitting in the back, and I was like, this is the night. This is the night that he's going to finally apologize for what he had done. I had tried everything growing up with him. We went to church, we got counseling, his 7 siblings, nothing worked. And I was like, this is the night. And at the end of that presentation, I set it up at least what I thought was perfection. Just like a lot of entrepreneurs feel like I've set myself up for success. And every parent, every grandparent were hugging their kids and grandparents at the end of that night. My dad didn't say a word to me. And I thought, if that doesn't move you to tell me you're sorry, I don't know what is. And it's like the entrepreneurial journey. We think we've got things set up for success, and then something doesn't go our way. And too many times we give up. I know I almost gave up that night. And 3 weeks later, 2 or 3 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail from my dad. He didn't even bring it over to me. He mailed it to me. And he said, I'm sorry for the father I've been. Here, my son is having an impact on hundreds of kids' lives, and I can't have an impact on my only son's life. He asked me for a second chance to do things right, which is funny how that came about. And he told me that he loved me for the first time in over a decade. And that was the day, like literally the day where I'm like, I am committed subconsciously. I didn't think this in my mind, but I thought I'm dedicated to stages for the rest of my life, like for the rest of my life. I called Daryl. I said, Daryl, why aren't you getting this message in every school across America? And he said, I don't know how to do that. And here's another huge teachable point for the audience. He said, I'm trying this and I'm trying this and I'm trying this and I'm trying this. And a lot of us love to refer to that as bright, shiny object syndrome. I said, why aren't you getting on stages where your ideal audience is sitting in the crowd? Deliver that same talk that my dad heard and watch what happens when all of those people will want to bring your program back into their schools. And that's exactly what happened. We would put them in front of building principals, superintendents. I actually have some very memorable places of Austin where he spoke. And what we would see is the audience would be moved, but then they would make an investment into his school programs and bring those programs back into their schools. And so over the last 15 years, we are directly responsible for not just booking 25,000 stages across the world, places like the White House, like Oprah, like some of the largest stages on the planet. But what I'm more proud of is the tens of millions of dollars that have been generated from products and services that have stemmed from those powerful messages on the stages. And so that's my genesis story of why I do what I do.
Jason, you're a good speaker. I almost cried on that part. You know what you're doing. Huh, who knew? It's insane to see the evolution of how you came about. But did you ever think that this was going to like be a business? You said you have a big team now. It's huge, right? Did you ever assume that it would be this big?
No, well, I assumed two things. I assumed I wouldn't speak ever. Like, seriously. So anybody who's never spoke that might like, should I listen to this episode or should I not? Just hang on, because I didn't think I'd ever speak. And I never thought this was going to be a business. Like that day, I just knew what to do. Like I knew, like I got this letter and I connected the dots in my head and I said, he's saying that speaker made him do this. Like he took action from that speaker. So here's the true story. I don't share this on many podcasts at all or many stages. I went online and I solicited Daryl's cell phone number because I wanted to talk to him. And I called him and he was like, I don't know what to do. Can you help me? And I said, yeah, I can help you. He goes, well, here's my guy. And here's me and this guy that you need to meet. Like, can you get out here in the next few months? I said, no, I'll be out there on Monday if you want. This was a Saturday. I got on a plane. I flew out to meet him on Monday. Actually, I've never shared this on stage. I went out there to meet them on Monday, and they started training me on what they wanted to take into the school system. And literally 2 weeks later, back in 2003, I was in the lab testing everything to figure out how to win stages. Like it happened quickly. So no, the answer to that is no. And then the other answer is I didn't think I would speak either, because remember, for him for 13 years, first when I was a youth pastor, I didn't want to speak. I brought in speakers. And then for him for 13 years, I never spoke. I was the one putting him on stages. So 3 years ago, when we started Advance Your Reach, my mentor, Brendan Burchard, and a lot of other people were like, you're going to have to be the one to speak now.
Right?
And
Dun, dun,
so no, it was like starting on small stages and beginning to get repetition. So no, I didn't see this as a business. And no, I didn't see me ever speaking.
So, hey, how did you know enough to not wait months and just go all in? I mean, I know it was impactful for you, but then you took actual action, which I'm assuming was very disruptive to the rest of your life, right?
Oh gosh, you asked some good questions, because I'm actually you're prompting things out of me that like really I haven't shared. So here's what happened. I knew I was a youth pastor, and I knew I wasn't going to leave that. I loved it. And so I said, I'm going to stay here, but I know like youth pastors operate like till 10 o'clock at night because they're at kids' football games and basketball games and they're going to the school lunches. So I didn't have to get started like really with my youth pastor job until like 10 or 11. So anybody out there that's trying to build a business, here's how you take action right here. I knew I could work from 7 to 10 a.m. every morning and begin this. And I remember the very first thing I did, I popped up, I went to a familiar site, maybe some of you have heard of it, it's called Google. And I went to google.com and I thought, I want to start figuring out all of the building principles in the state of Texas. So I got a list of all the building principles in the state of Texas. Watch this. Oh gosh, I've never shared this ever, ever. I got a list and I started cold calling every single one of them. And I would land like 1 in 20 to be interested in bringing this Rachel's Challenge program back into their schools. And then one of them along the way said, hey, like all of us principals gather together at one time, 2 times a year. Why don't you? And then the light bulb went off. And so then I changed that search term in Google. I said, Texas Principals Conferences, Texas Principals Association, Texas Principals Events. I talked to a lady in Corpus Christi who controlled one of those stages. I talked to a lady in Austin, Texas who controlled one of those stages. Pam Faulkner and Ruth McCain, can actually Google them. And I called them and we landed those stages. And now instead of like talking to 100 principals, we had 500 educators in each of these rooms. And what we saw come as a result of those rooms was dozens and dozens and dozens of schools and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for an organization that had only done $52,000 the year before. So I blocked my time and I figured out the highest leverage activity to be able to bring the most amount of programs into the school system, because I knew it would end teen suicides and school shootings. And the way that was, it wasn't ads or it wasn't yellow pages or it wasn't like any of this stuff. It was a freaking stage where the majority of people in the audience were essentially the best prime customers for Rachel's Challenge. And so that's how I figured out like stages are one of the most powerful ways to grow your business.
I got goosebumps because my former husband actually used to do school shows all the time, and I used to cold call, and we also went to conferences all the time and do very similar things. That is interesting. Now, I did not go, ooh, Bing, this is the stage thing for me. So how did you move, especially if it's only 3 years that you've been building your business? That's insane. I know you've been building his business, but were you like a part of his business and then had to leave that to go start your own? How did that work?
You're not, man,
I'm annoying. It's good.
No, I love it. Because like literally, like there's one man who's asked a lot of interesting questions that drew out a lot, but for 13 years. So here's the encouraging thing for the audience. Like for 13 years, I was in the lab testing this with him. He was our primary client. We had 2 other clients. So we had 3 big clients that we were doing this for, them being the biggest. And I all of a sudden was like, man, this stuff works. Like that first stage actually generated around $250,000 in business from that first stage in Corpus Christi. One stage where if I had to do this all day, like they 5x their revenues from the year before from one stage, from Pam Faulkner's stage. Pam, if you're listening to this, thank you so much. But what happened is for 13 years, I just started perfecting that model, the model of how do we make sure that Daryl is great on stage without ever feeling salesy? Because none of these events let us sell, because these were like professional events. And not to say like a selling event isn't a professional, but these are like educators and like teachers, and like you don't get to sell products and services there. So I just kept testing it for 13 years. Like, how do we make him great on stage? How do we get him on bigger stages and better stages? And then how do we make sure that he scales past the stage with his products and services so that schools actually buy these programs? And so for 13 years, we were completely committed to just him. And I had this epiphany. I don't know how many people run into him, but I heard Brendan Burchard and Pat Flynn. I heard Pat Flynn's podcast, Smart Passive Income. And I'm like, wow. And then I heard Brendan Burchard talk about being an expert. And I thought, I'm not an expert. Everybody knows how to book stages. That's easy. And I went to 6 or 7 speaking events because I heard about all these speaking events, and I went and I listened, and some of them were good and some of them were okay. And then I went to World's Greatest Speaker Training, which was Brendan's event, and I upgraded for $1,200 or maybe $1,500 to spend 3 minutes on his stage. I was scared to death. If you watch the video, you can see my fear and my terror. I actually have
I want the video. Send us the link. We want to see the video.
video. This is my first talk and I'm shaking. You can see me on stage and I'm terrified, but I wanted to see if what I had to offer the world was something that the world wanted. And literally on 3 minutes on stage, that is where Advance Your Reach was birthed. I was with Brendan a few weeks later after that at a private event. He pulled my wife and I aside at a dinner and he said, Pete, you have to take this to the world. Like, people need to have this. And literally 3 months later, we're launching our very first live event in November of 2015. We're not even to our 3-year anniversary yet. And we're launching our business, and everything else, Jamie, is like, it's been a whirlwind. It's been exciting. There's been highs, there's been lows, there's been ups, there's been challenges, there's been incredible team members here, incredible team members go. That's part of the entrepreneurial journey. But I stayed true to making sure that, like, I really was focused on what I was great at and what my genius is at. And a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, we try to do too much of this and we don't stay locked in and focused on what we're really good at. And so we, over the last 3 years, little stage by a little bigger, by a little bigger, by a little bigger, by a little bigger, and just putting in the work and the repetition, I've gotten a lot better on stages. But we've all obviously seen our brand grow so much so that the great Pat Flynn actually last year, actually paid as an attendee to come out to our event, which is not a normal thing.
No, he never paid. No, I was like, you're not speaking? Well, okay, you're paying for it? Oh, okay. This guy must be something. Yeah, well, because it does. Everybody, someone like Pat can go anywhere he wants without necessarily, you know what I mean? And he chose your stuff. So what's even more impressive, though, to me, is that you weren't a speaker. Like, how do you get on your first, take me back to like 2015, when you first go on that stage, when technically all the people in the audience that want to learn how to be better speakers are judging you like heck, right? They are.
Yeah, I got to get that video clip, because once again, I've never given that video clip out, but I'll give it to you and you'll see I was scared to death. And I was scared. And I remember 2 people from Brendan's team, Mel Abraham, and then Denise, who does a lot of Brendan's operations, pulling me aside and like, that's unbelievable. And then Denise is like, you need to come to this event in a couple of weeks with your wife. I want you to bring your wife out. And I'm so grateful to Denise. She was one of my earliest champions, like very earliest champions. And that's where I met Brendan, and that's where he really encouraged me. And actually, we just came on our 3-year anniversary, and I texted him and I just said, thank you for pushing me out there. But then it became, actually, I'll be really honest, like, I'll be very vulnerable here. I was like, cool. I got introduced into the internet marketing space. And I've worked with some incredible internet marketers. We've gotten the opportunity to work with Russell Brunson. We put Ryan Dice on stages, Damon John. We've almost put Michelle Obama on a stage, which is cool. I will land her on a stage one day. But so I got introduced into the internet marketing space, and I just chose the wrong recipe, the wrong order of the recipe. A lot of people, the recipe is like, there's this recipe to building your business, and everybody doesn't have to do the same thing, but there's a time and a place for different things to happen. And out of the gates, I thought, with no list, and no followers, and no audience, let's go do a big online launch. And online launches are good and they're powerful, but at the right time. And so my team spent all of this money putting together this launch. And we made one sale, and that sale actually refunded. And so I'm thinking it was a family member. And it was a wake-up call for me. It was like, okay, everybody's telling me to do this and do that. And I even love podcasts. I'm on a podcast, but everybody's like, do a blog and do a podcast and do an online launch and lead collect and build the funnel and do this and do that. And to me, I went back to my roots, which is why I'm deeply convicted about this. I said, screw this. I'm going to get on a stage. And I went and got on a digital stage, and I made an offer. And that year we did 5 figures on customer acquisition. And then I went and got on a physical stage. And it was like, wow, I generated 5 figures in business on my first physical stage. And then I got on another physical stage a few months later. And all of a sudden it's like, no, this is it. Like, stages, both physical and digital, both offline and online. Like, it is the fastest way to start the recipe to growing your business. And unfortunately, I didn't do that out of the gates. I got caught up in the bright, shiny object of everything, Jamie.
So appreciate you saying that, because nobody tells you that. They're like, oh, everybody says do a product launch. And then people come back to me later and go, I sold 2. I suck. I never want to do this again. I'm like, Okay, so there's nuances to this game, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's strengths are different too, right? Oh, and some things just take extra time. So I love that you went back to the core. How long did it take you? Because I know you said you started November 2015 was your first live event. Yeah, so that was you going, we're really throwing in all the chips. How long did it take after failing at selling one refund to that first live event of yours?
So good question. So November 2015, we did a live event. We got a little bit of revenues out of that, which was nice. And then at the beginning of the year, we were ramping up for our big launch with our big 0-person list. And then come April, I remember April, May, I think it was April, May. I think it was around, maybe around February. We did the launch, February, March, and it was a bust for us. And by the way, I want to circle back. Like, we're doing a launch at the end of this year, but it's the first launch we've done. And it was the timing of the recipe. It's like one thing at a time, like one thing, like get good at this. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I can build some lead magnets and start doing some online capture. Now I can start doing some partner webinars. Now I can start doing, an online launch. And so it's just the recipe. Like, there's this recipe that I feel like we get caught up in trying to do it all at one time. And that's what happens as entrepreneurs, is we just get crazy busy. So it was probably the second half of 2006 where I got on my first few stages. Like I think like March, April. Oh, right after the launch, I got on a stage. I'm like, screw this, I'm getting on a stage. And they didn't even pick me as a speaker. They picked me as an MC. And it was a stage of like 100 people. And I still did 5 figures out of that. I didn't even get to speak. I was an MC.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we actually have to talk about the tactics that you're using, because I love all the numbers and we're like, woohoo, this is great. Everyone's going, well, then what do you say? How do you not sound skeezy? How do you not have them run to the back of the room? Like, and I mean, not that we don't want them to be excited and run to the back of the room. I just mean, how can you actually sell without necessarily telling them the pitch, which is 15 minutes long?
Yeah. So let's keep it at, like, if you do. So there's 2 types of stages. I grew up in the stage where you can't make an offer. The last 3 years, I've been introduced to the stage where you can make an offer. It doesn't matter which of the stages I'm on. I do the same thing. There's only one piece that's a little bit different, and it's when I can actually make a formal offer, and it's about 5 to 7 minutes long, because none of the selling happens on the back end of the presentation. It happens while you're teaching. And so here's what I want you to know. First off, I'm kind of anti a lot of people. I don't believe you tease people. I believe you teach people. I believe a lot of people advocate for teasing. And when you tease, then you can get the good stuff. I'll give you the good stuff right now. Because here's the thing. It's when Daryl taught them how to change the culture of their schools from stage and tied in inspiration on the front end and back end. But in the middle, he taught them how to go change the culture of their schools. That's when they said, okay, I can either go teach it because he just laid out the whole framework for me, or I can have him come change it for me. So when you teach them, you're leaving them 2 options. Go do it on their own, which is a win for you. I know you don't think that's a win if they don't become a customer, but it's a win for you.
Gosh, you get to help everybody else anyway. How sad is that? Poor you. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, or they go deeper with you, and it's a win because reality is they're going to do it a lot faster with your audience. And so the simple way that you want to think about any stage, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a webinar, whether it's traffic and conversion, Dave Ramsey's stage, the White House, like these are all stages that we've booked. We call it the story braid framework. And it's a 4-part framework that I love teaching. And it's pretty simple. Like, you start with, there's 3 parts to it. You start with the heart and you connect with your audience. Like, you just connect with them. Like, talk about your family, tell a joke, do a dance, or sing a song, like something where you feel comfortable. I talk about my family, like in a way that makes the audience connect with my family. So I talk about my little daughter's struggle. And how I share a story, which I won't get into. So the first piece of the framework is connect, and then the most important piece that you want to do, and I'll put percentages to each of these 4 pieces because everybody's like, how much time? I can't tell you how much time because sometimes you have 10 minutes, sometimes you have 60. So here's what you want to do: is open with the heart, connect, and then make sure the audience sees that you're ordinary, meaning that you've walked in their shoes, and that you're extraordinary. You know how to change the culture of their schools. I've been there. I've experienced schools that weren't great with culture. And now what I've figured out through my experience is like, this is what happens now when we get our hands on a school with culture, and now culture becomes like popping in the school. So people want to see that you've walked in their shoes and that you've done something extraordinary. If you only talk about the extraordinary, which is used to be a common theme, every wall in the audience goes up and they shut you down and they say, I don't want to learn anything about you. If you only talk about ordinary, they're going to say, what can he or she teach me? So make sure that in the first 5 to 10 minutes, you paint that gap or that bridge of the heart. Now their hearts are opened up because they're like, wow, like, okay, I'm engaged. I want to know. Now, for the majority of the time, you are teaching them how to move from ordinary to extraordinary. You've never started a podcast? Cool. This is the framework of what it takes to move from ordinary or no podcast to like becoming a podcaster. I'm using Jaime as an example here. And so you're now teaching for the majority of the time, and you're speaking to their minds, and their minds are wide open because you open their hearts. They have no defense, no walls, no distractions, because that you opened up with their hearts. Then you transfer out of the mind to the hands. And the hands are the call to action.
Okay.
Now there's 2 types of calls to action. You can either, when you can't make an offer, which is the majority of the time, you give a free gift away. And you give a gift that, here's the problem that people, and I even caught like you and Pat doing this somewhat, you give a gift away that they can consume in 10 minutes. You don't give a book, and you don't give your slides, because people will never go back and review those. The intention of the gift is they consume it in 10 minutes and they get to experience your genius. And when they can experience your genius in 10 minutes, any automation or any follow-up or anything that comes after the fact, they're going to be like, man, that person's already moved me from A to B. I'm pretty confident they can move me from A to Z. And you might say, why don't you give them A to Z? Because they're not going to consume it. So why would we give them something they're not going to consume? So we really highly encourage giving away a valuable gift from stage that is literally helping them get a win in their life. That's what we like to call it, the quick win gift. The quick win gift. And this is going to sound counterintuitive, but you collect it by a contact form. Like, you actually put a form on the seat and they fill in all their information. And on one side of the form, there's a beautiful infographic of the gift. And so I know that sounds crazy.
I was going to ask you that question, because way back when I used to have accountability forms, I'd get everybody's email and I'd personally email them after stage, following up with each of them back in the day before we had a bazillion email lists, right? But the fact that they have something in stage, because otherwise people will put it on the screen and everyone sees it on the slide and then it goes away and they don't really care. So you put it on their seats beforehand?
And meeting planners don't mind that. You just want to make sure that you talk with the meeting planner, the one who runs the event, and say, hey, I want to be able to give away a free gift to every one of your audience. I know a lot of people want to sell their books. I don't want to sell my books. I just want to give away a free gift that we had normally charged for. And the meeting planner then becomes heroic. I saw Chandler Bolt, who's a student of ours, do this at Social Media Marketing World last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a student of ours.
I love him.
By the way, we'll come back to his story because it's important, because he just moved from the online to the offline. He was told the offline stage is a rat race and it never works, and why would you ever do that? And I want to come back to that. But Chandler gave a free gift away and the crowd started clapping. They were like, oh my gosh, this week one of our students gave a gift away when everybody on each side of him was selling something in each room, and the crowd started clapping. Like, they were like, so now you're positioned heroically by giving that gift away, which that's only the third piece of the framework. It's the hands. Mm-hmm. And then the final piece of the framework is the closing heart. You tell some story, and it doesn't have to be tied in with your opening story. You tell some story that reinforces everything you taught. Something where that story just reinforced everything you teach, so they actually will take action and go implement upon your talk. Heart, head, hands, heart. It's the story braid framework. And whether I've got 15 minutes on a podcast, 3 minutes on Brendan Burchard's stage, 60 minutes on a stage, 10 minutes with my kid who's not cleaning his room, like, I want you to know that is what I use right there. Yeah.
I was going to say, that is genius. The kid's not cleaning his room. That's amazing.
Because a lot of the times we go right to their head. Keaton, clean your room. And I do it. I'm guilty of it. Hey, Bubs, Like, just look at the difference here. Hey, Bubs, like, dude, you are such a man of responsibility. Like, you're the grades you make in school and the responsible man that you're becoming in life. It's blowing me away. Conversation this morning. Thanks, Dad. Like, I appreciate that. It's like one of the things that I really want to see you become more responsible in is when Dad's gone or when, Mom's asking you to get your room cleaned up, like, will you take that responsibility? And yeah, yeah, I can do that. And so it's a different framing. Like, a lot of the times I don't do it all the times, but a lot of the times I'll just go right at him, clean your room. And his defense goes up. Yep. And we're speaking to their heads, like, do this, do this. And so it even like I'm thinking story braid to be able to connect in just conversations, because people want to connect, Jamie. Like, we're in a world right now that is human connection has gone away. And we're in a world where we need human connection. And that's why this framework, it's not a formula. So don't think you have to be me in this. It's not a formula, it's a framework. That's how you present amazing from stage.
I love your heart in that, like, it shines through all this anyway from telling the stories at the beginning. That's why I was like, oh, he already hooked me at the very, very beginning, right? But you did it in a way that is ethical and lovely. I feel like, unfortunately, in this digital marketing space, we're like, more webinars. This is the pitch. We go like this. And I'm like, what about the people on the other end and the caring of the helping them, even if it's only this much and they don't buy your program? So I'm really, really impressed with the ethics that you have also, by the way, because you care more about impact than about money. But yet you still get the money along the way also. So people, just please see him as a shining example, even though apparently we just met, but we feel like we've known each other forever. So tell me about
people are greater than the pitch. Like, they just are. And Daryl would be, sometimes he'd walk away from a stage and say, oh man, this was, we didn't have as many schools go deeper with us. Because here's the reason we want people to go deeper with you. Here's the reason. Zig Ziglar said, I've never changed someone's life with a speaking gig, but sometimes they buy my tapes and cassettes and I got a shot at changing their lives. The reality is, when you get in their ears past the stage after just 60 minutes, you're going to help change their lives faster with your products, with your services, with your offers, with your solutions. So we know that. And so we're confident and bold in giving them the opportunity to do that. So I don't want to say like that's a bad thing. It's a good thing because you're going to change their lives. However, there's people sitting in your audience and they're implementers, and they'll go take what you just taught them because you didn't tease them and you taught them. They'll go implement it. And then I would always, or Daryl would remind me too, or I'd remind him, like, look at this story. This came from a school that never had our program. And it's like a story of a kid who didn't end up taking their life. And so, like, just as long as we can do what we're supposed to do, like, the revenues will follow. There will be enough customers that want to go deeper with you because time and speed are important to them. Like, time and money are important to them, and they know they can save money and save time if they go deeper with you. So I'm not unashamed. Like, yes. I'm not ashamed. Like, that's an important piece of it.
Yes.
But you also win when people get wins in that crowd as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that distinction, because the commitment does make more impact also. But I love that you're doing this in a different way, because, like I said, online stuff has been touted, and I love online. Don't get me wrong. I'm from the middle of nowhere. If we didn't have online, I don't know where I'd be. But talking about, like, Chandler, I know he built his stuff online to begin with. Why even bother to go on the stage? You said you were going to bring up that.
Yeah, I love that. So we talked about being great on stage, but everybody that's listening wants to scale their business. And so what I mean when I say scaling a stage is the only thing that means is customer acquisition. Like, how do you acquire more students and customers from every stage you're on? So Chandler got told, and I won't name any names, but Chandler, and I've teased this person, but Chandler got told by a big, like, person in the internet marketing space, like, physical stages are a rat race. Like, they won't work. They won't help you scale the stage. They're not going to help you attract more customers. And it's a rat race. You got to go be a road warrior. And so Chandler and I connected maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. He's become a dear friend of mine. And he's in one of our, like, top programs, like, because I just believe in the kid so much. So a little context for your crowd. He built a $0 to $3 million company just by doing online.
Well, and let me just highlight really quick, because I met Chandler on his 21st birthday many, many, many years ago. We were one of his first partner webinars that he ever did for Self-Publishing School. And to see how far he's come, is ridiculously impressive.
So Chandler came to me and said, okay, I heard your teaching. Same thing that Stu McLaren did. I heard your teaching. And he said, I actually think that makes sense. Like, it makes sense. Like, I don't have to, like, this can be a cool customer acquisition strategy. I can provide value and attract a lot of customers at the same time and expedite the sales process. Like, sometimes it takes 6, 8, 10, 12 months for companies or entrepreneurs to land a new sale because there's like, oh, send me a proposal. Cool. Here's the proposal. Okay. Send me some testimonies. Okay. Here's the testimonies. And you go back and forth. And 12 months later, they're purchasing your products and services. And now you get to do all of that in 1 hour on a stage. You get to be powerful on a stage. So Chandler went and tested his first stage, 27 chiropractors in his backyard in San Diego when he lived there. We helped him get ready for his talk in the same way that we just taught the audience how to do. He went and delivered that talk. Actually, he just recently said 23 chiropractors, and 9 of them came up to Chandler asking about buying his products and services. He just did shy of $20,000 in a room of 23 people in his backyard. He said, I drove there, I drove back, and that's where, Pete, your methodology of the power of the 1 hour launch finally made sense to me. This year, he's worked with us really closely in everything that we've done a lot with him this year. And he just came out on record and said, not only will Stages generate 7 figures into my business this year, first year on Stages, first year, he said it's now become our number 2 customer acquisition channel and might become number 1 potentially. So, like, to your audience out there that's wanting more customers, like, this is a fast way to do it. And I love this because this is a man that moved from online. And he said this, Jamie, he said the online is more busy and it's more noisy than it's ever been. It's even harder. Like, Facebook's harder than it's ever been. And he said, I wanted to do something to separate myself. And now you elevate yourself in a room as one of the authorities on a stage where everybody's looking up to you. It's a different positioning, and it will help people separate themselves. Even if they don't want to be on the road nationally, they could be in there. I could be on a stage in my backyard in Colorado Springs every single week if I wanted to, just in my backyard. Drive there, drive back, generate some new customers, good to go. Drive. And so I want people to know they don't have to be a road warrior to do this.
So that's exactly what we were talking about before too. I'm like, single mom, 2 kids. Like, I want to stay home more. And now I'm like, well, dude, I live in Austin. I've spoken to like twice, 3 times, maybe, I think, locally. I know, because I usually don't. I know, you're making me all excited now. No, I'll think about it. Well, and I went that path for a really long time. Not a really long time, but I was really going like, I love speaking. I love the act of speaking, and I love the seeing people in person connection that online doesn't have as much. You get emails, which are great, but usually I'm like, that's too many, right? Leilani can deal with that. Okay, great. But they're people, right? And when you're in person with them, you can actually connect with them. So to me, I love that. I also stick around for way too long. I talk too much afterwards, right? I'm like, I want to talk to all the people, and it takes quite a bit of time. So as the thought leader, how do you mitigate the time versus doing other more higher, quote unquote, leveraged things if you're not in the sole customer acquisition sort of point in your business?
Yeah. So I'll talk about Stu McLaren just because these are what's coming to mind. So okay. Yeah, so we talked about like being great on stage, and hopefully that framework served your audience. We talked about scaling a stage, like really how you can use this as a customer acquisition channel. Let's talk about the stage itself now. Like that's the 3 pieces that, like, those are the 3 pieces. You're taking me down the perfect path of like what we believe. Those are the core pieces. Be great on stage, get on stage, scale past the stage. So Stu has 2 kids. He runs a nonprofit. He runs a very successful business. And he sat in a very similar teaching like this, and he said, wow, all I have to really be on is 4 to 6 dream stages a year, and that will be a major needle mover for my business.
Good point.
And a dream stage, I define a dream stage as the majority of the people in the audience are your ideal avatar, whether that's customers or clients or just people who you can influence. When the majority of them are in the audience, it's amazing what can begin to happen. And for some, it's not about the number of people, it's about the majority being the right people. And so why that's important is if someone's just getting started in speaking, they could go be in front of 50 to 100 people. I just want you to make sure they're the right people. But with Stu and yourself, like, you have more positioning and credibility. You've been around a long time. So for Stu, it's like, Pete, I want to be on the multiple thousands of people stages. And so TNC, Dave Ramsey, a huge stage in Brazil. And so, but he's only choosing 4 to 6 of the right ones, what we call dream stages. I love dream stages. Like, I've preached that to my team for like 15 years. I love dream stages. And so Stu saw like, wow, 4 to 6 of the right stages a year. I can do that. I don't want to do, and I have to push him on 6. Like, if he's listening to this, he hates when I say 6 because he's more keen on 4. But
I'll text him and just write, do 6 stages, and then that's it, and see what he says.
It's up to 6, up to 6. But literally, the last year, he's been on 3 amazing stages as he's really adopted this idea of dream stages. And so the same goes true for your people. If they'll adopt the idea of dream stages and limit it. Like, I'm not 4 to 6 like Stu. Jamie, I'm doing 15 this year. 15 physical stages and 100 digital stages. Like, that's what our team's target was going into the year. 15, this is a digital stage for me. My daughter's upstairs above me, so I do more digital stages than I do physical stages. And by the way, I treat them as a stage. This is a stage. And so people can scale with digital. They just can't have the connection nor the conversion that a physical stage has. It will never compare. So there's pros and cons to both. That's why the balance of both of them together, 15 and 100, will generate multiple 7 figures this year between the combination just with our stages, just with the combination of those stages. And so Stu made a decision to say 4, and I don't know what his online number is. It's a lot more, but you just got to pick that balance. I say pick your stage portfolio and stick to that. Don't try to think you need to do more or less than that. Just stick to whatever it is you decide.
That's a really good point, because the entrepreneur in me is like, I want to do so many in Austin. Oh no, I don't. Right? It's like a back and forth, but the decision in advance is huge. I want to ask you though about this, because I get asked this all the time also. So my former husband had 1 show, well, 2 shows, right? So they do 2 shows. When I see entrepreneurs do this, they're like, and I need to talk for this, and I need a separate talk for this, and I need to talk for this, and somebody asked me to talk about this, so therefore I'm doing this too. So you were talking about signature talks, so give us the lowdown on that, because everybody needs to hear this, and so do I.
Yes, everybody needs to hear this. And I say this, I had a conversation with her maybe a year and a half ago, no, a year ago, 16 months ago. I had a conversation with Marie Forleo, and Marie does not speak a lot, and quite frankly, she can speak as much as she wants. And one of the misconceptions, not just like that she had, but a lot of people have, is this idea that you have to have all of these signature talks. You don't. You don't. And that was so freeing for her to hear, because the creativity that goes into every talk takes so much time. Now, here's the beauty of it. If you can create one incredible signature talk and put the effort and energy into that, Rachel's challenge for 10 years went from 0 to our peak year was around close to $7 million from 1 signature talk. Advance Your Reach went from 0 to 7 figures with 1 signature talk. Now you might say, but what if the meeting planner says, can you talk more about this or about this or about this? Watch this. Let's see if I can clearly communicate this. And please ask me questions on this, Jamie. When I do a signature talk, I open with heart, I close with heart. I give a call to action. But I talk about designing a signature talk, scaling past the stage, and getting on stages. That's my signature talk, 45, 60, 30, whatever it is. Now, if a meeting planner says, if they don't ask any questions, yes, just deliver the 3 steps to using speaking to build your business. Great. I'll spend 10 to 15 minutes on the first teaching point, 10 to 15 on the second, 10 to 15 on the third. If they're like, Pete, my audience just wants to know about stages, then I have the framework to be able to go deeper of one part of my process and not as deep on the other 2. No problem. We'll talk about stages. I'm also going to talk about the other 2 because it's incomplete, but I might only spend 5 minutes, and 30 minutes. And if I have 30 minutes to go deeper in that one, we all have more depth to our talks. They're what we put in our courses and our workshops and our events and all of that. I can go deeper in any of those 3, but if the meeting planner is like, I just want to talk about like customer acquisition more so, then I'll go deeper in the scaling. Oh, my people are brand new and they've never delivered a talk and I want to talk about the signature talk, then I'll go deeper in the signature talk. I can actually, with full integrity, tell them, yes, I can do that. I can serve you. Now, here's where people make the mistake. Oh, I want to talk about mindset or funnels or that. Guess what? I'm not the right person for that stage, because then it's wasting me, my family, and their time to try to go put something together that's not congruent with my business. And that's when I'm like, no, I'm not the right person. But rarely does that happen because I communicate on the front end that I am the stage guy. So here's the wrap up. One signature talk, and you can go deep as long as you have like a proprietary process in the middle that you're teaching, going from ordinary to extraordinary. You can go as deep or as wide into that process as you want to. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Now, how do you decide what the signature talk is about, though? Because I know a breadth and width that is very, very wide, right? And so what's interesting is I do get asked, and I'm like, no, I just say no all the time now, because I'm like, I don't have a core. I used to have a core, but it was more about millionaires, and I don't really want to talk about that anymore. So I keep going, oh, well, what is the core? So how do you, if you have more than one, because for you, it's great. You have speaking. For Chandler, it's great. He's got the book stuff, right?
So let's talk about you.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
So no, what's your core?
Well, so we're moving, and this is why it's perfect. Okay, so we're moving into the system side. I have a new program called OwnerBox.
Got it.
So I know we have to start wrapping up soon. So I want you to do all this on me, but I know we only have a few more minutes. So let me ask you this: I think of the signature talk like a lead magnet-ish, right?
A much deeper one. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Okay. Well, what you're trying to do is you're trying to capture the audience enough to want to be at your talk and not tune you out, right? Now, of course, using your framework, it sounds like it's a really good thing. But even at an event or whatever, they're like, ooh, do I want this hook or do I not? Right? How do you figure out what that sweet spot lead magnet is when it could be many different things?
Meaning the lead magnet that's actually given during the middle of the talk?
No. I mean like the actual signature talk. How do you decide? Like I've got 10 different lead magnets and we've ranked them and we know which ones do better. Do I turn in my top lead magnet into like my signature talk, or how do I decide on the framework that I teach?
The framework that you teach, and we'll make this simple, and you and I can jam offline, and maybe we can do like just you and me a training on this and figure it out.
I'm all excited about speaking, so thank you.
Yeah, but the owner box has elements to it. Like I want everybody to hear this. The owner box is trying to teach you how to do A, B, C, D, and E. Yep. We don't have time to get into the A, B, C, D, and E, but owner box is teaching you that.
Yep.
That's what it's helping the entrepreneur do. And so now your talk is actually going to be talking about A, B, C, D, and E. Don't pay attention to any of your lead magnets out there. Pay attention to what your product system is, because whatever owner's box is helping an entrepreneur move from ordinary to extraordinary. So strip out the elements of what owner box is doing, and that becomes your talk. It just so happens that owner box goes deeper into it, but you get to go on stage and do it in 40 or 60 minutes. Owner box just goes deeper. Does that help you?
Oh, a million times over, because Matthew Pullard is a guy that has come here many times. I don't know if you know him or not. He had me create a unified message for it, which has 3 key pieces. And I'm like, oh, that's my talk. Oh, never mind. So I'll show it to you and we can jam offline. But I think that
million times over. I love that. That means I provided some value. So that's good.
Click. Good job. Good job. I love it when I get personal information on the podcast. Not that I don't, but this is amazing. I know we have to start wrapping up, so sorry I cut you short from before, but
all right.
We'll probably have you back on the show again, right? So we can read what that word is behind your head. No.
Yes, reach. It's reach. Advance your reach. Advance your reach.
I love it. So what is one action listeners can take this week to help move them forward towards their goal of 1 million?
Yeah, connect with video. And what I mean by video is I use a tool called bombbomb.com/reach. I think either Pat or John Lee Dumas said it was the first time they heard it when I said it. Bombbomb.com/reach. And it is an affiliate link, but I have a video on there on why I use it. And so whether I'm trying to attract a customer, I actually use it for stages more. It's on my iPhone. I send a message. So powerful because I can see not only when they opened it, but when they watched it. And you'll be amazed at the attraction it brings to you. We use it specifically. We use it a lot to win stages, but for your audience, they could use it to win customers. So if you don't want to use BombBomb, you can use your camera app. It's just a little bit more process to go put it into Vimeo or YouTube or whatever. But BombBomb does it all for you from your app. And so we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are just using BombBomb, committing to shooting a BombBomb or 2 a day, a video a day. It's just a video email platform. And to me, we use that a lot and it wins for us, Jamie.
I haven't heard. So I've gotten quite a few from that, and I remember being like, "This is amazing," and I have not heard it recently, and I loved it before. So thank you for bringing it back up again, because I don't know that I would have heard of it otherwise, even though I've heard of it before. Do you know when it comes through and you're like, "Oh, I knew I wanted to use that." Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Tell us where we can find more about you, more about your process, all that fun stuff online.
Yeah, Jamie, I want to close it up like 30-second story.
No, I'm
like,
totally not going to let. Oh, wait.
Oh,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Man, she's getting tough on me.
No, this is where he's closing on the heart side, people, just so you know
go.
his framework.
There you go. Okay. You're good. But like, seriously, on a serious note, my wife and I, we have 3 kiddos, and we just found out, we were told we'd never have kids. So we've adopted all 3 of our kids. And we were just told that we are having a kid. We found out at 40, first kid ever, that we were actually physically giving birth to. And so it's a little miracle. But it's ironic because I'm in my 40s now. I just turned 40. I got a call from my dad when he was 49, and I didn't have kids yet. And he told me he was pregnant. And I remember thinking, gosh, this isn't fair. We can't have kids. We're struggling to have kids. And that's when we were starting our adoption process. And so we went home to meet my little brother for the first time 12 years ago. I remember seeing something different in that home that day. And as we were leaving to come back to Colorado, my wife and I were like, there's something different about my dad. And he walked me to the car. He opened the driver's door, and he looked me in my eyes before I got in. And he said, I want you to know you'll always be my little boy, but I feel like JT is my second chance to get to do things right. And I'm telling you, I got in the car and I just broke down. I told my wife, like, this is amazing. And so here's what I want your listeners to understand. Like, some of them are using stage, or some of them aren't using stages. Maybe it's because they're scared, or maybe it's because they're Chandler Bolt. Like, they think they're bad. Some people are using them a little, and some people are using them a lot, and maybe you're not doing it right. But like, the biggest encouragement I want to encourage you to do is just begin to incorporate stages a little bit into your business. Try to get a little bit better, because they're so powerful. And had it not been for a stage, my dad wouldn't be the dad he is to JT, and he wouldn't be the grandfather that he is to my sister and my kids, had that not been because of a stage. And so the encouragement to all of your audience is just to begin to incorporate stages. So Jamie, they can find out more at advanceyourreach.com/EM. We actually have an amazing gift there that will take them deeper into all 3 of these buckets that you and I talked about today. We'll get their signature talk outlined in about a 25-minute training. We'll get them on the right stages, and we'll help them understand how to scale past the stage. So there's a 1-hour launch workshop. Really encourage your listeners to go and get signed up for that, because we'll take them deeper into all 3 of these areas. advanceyourreach.com/EM.
And we will definitely link that up. I got more goosebumps in this interview than I think potentially ever. So you are a very amazing storyteller. Everybody, make sure you go get that. I apparently now have to also, in order to craft my signature talk. So thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun. This has really been a fun interview. So thank you for having me.
Anytime. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you want to check out more amazing resources, I'm only curating the best of the best. Go check out eventualmillionaire.com. You can take the Eventual Millionaire quiz, figure out where you are in business and what you need right now. Plus, you can look at curated resources specifically for you on the new Start Here page. I'm so excited. Please join us. Please let me know if you need anything at all. I'm here for you. And have a fantastic day. Bye.